Cool. I'm gonna take down notes. Do you two have the link to the HackMD?
I'm sure I can find it, but not with me.
I'll put it in the chat.
Oh, yeah. Thanks. I'm just gonna start. Open my GitHub as well. Cool. Right, so we're gonna talk about mostly PyGMT release v0.5 today. And Megan can probably give us a heads up on GMT 6.3, I guess. Like,
Yeah.
what
Do you want me to do that now?
Yeah, you can do that. And yeah, I was just gonna list out the agenda. So.
Oh yeah, go for it.
And what else? And I think the AGU abstract confirmations were sent out yesterday, or it could be today. You guys' time.
I'll have to check my spam. I didn't get anything.
but I got mine, my confirmation. So maybe hopefully we have ours ready for PyGMT. Yeah, and that's all I have, I guess. Yeah, Megan, do you want to start, or does Will have anything to add to the list? No. Okay.
Yeah, nothing comes to mind.
Okay.
So I'm starting with the overview of 6.3, or are we going over 0.5?
Yeah, you can. Whatever. Like, what do you feel like?
Okay, sure. So at our weekly meeting last week, Paul and I discussed a tentative release date for, I think, October 22nd, which is 1 week after the tentative release date for PyGMT 0.5.0. And we have released Drafter now, so we can see a good summary of all the features that will go in the changelog without having to manually review the 500 or so pull requests since the last release. So there's a few dozen pretty major changes in that, and and there's two main things that will affect the PyGMT side. The first is that there's a whole suite of new modifiers and directives to various options, and so since we don't have any automated documentation updates, we might decide to add those modifiers to our documentation or not when they're released. One thing to think about with that is that I'm not sure if we'll have the minimum version be 6.3 or not for version 0.6.0, and so we might not want to document an option that wouldn't work if they're using 6.2 versus 6.3. The other main change that I think is relevant for PyGMT is the Earth relief data set. So first of all, there's a new feature in which you can leave off the res. So rather than having Earth relief 0.5 minute, you can just have a plot, and if it's a plotting module, we'll automatically determine the resolution. So you can just say Earth relief. And when I was testing out that GMT feature, I wanted to make sure it worked for the wrapper. So I did write a module that's like get resolution. So it'll give you the resolution you should use that could then be used for load Earth relief data set for PyGMT. But we don't simply pass a string with remote files often in the same way that it's done with GMT. So it might take some discussion to decide how we want to support that.
All right. How does that work in GMT itself? Do you just do at Earth_relief?
And if it's a plotting module, if it's a plotting module, it'll just get what we think is the best resolution, so that you're not downloading too much data. And if it's a processing module, it'll give you an error because we don't want to make assumptions about what you need for processing.
Resolution.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's solely for the plotting modules. Okay.
with the exception of GRD cut, where there's a new GRD cut -D option that will
Okay.
essentially just print what the optimal resolution is for a given -R-J.
No, that sounds cool.
So it would
Okay.
be cool to get that, I think, supported through PyGMT so people don't have to be guessing what resolutions they might
Yep.
need for a given size. And then as this isn't really a GMT release component, but on the server, Paul has plans to update the Earth relief grids to use the latest SRTM 15 plus. We have one person joining.
Yep. Oh, that's good. GMT does so very well. So TM 15.
Hello.
Hello, Richard.
Hello. I'm sorry, I'm in China, so it's very late. Cannot.
Whoa, you are very dedicated. It is 2 a.m. in China.
Yeah, so yeah. Thanks for the.
Okay.
Should we do some quick instructions? I don't know if you all know each other.
I do not know.
So
You?
I'm Megan. I am a maintainer for PyGMT and a postdoc at University of Hawaii.
Yeah, so I'm Weiji. I'm also a maintainer of PyGMT and currently in New Zealand, somewhere in between a PhD and postdoc. We've got somewhere else as well. And Will?
Yeah, I'm Will. I live in the United Kingdom. I'm maintainer also. I studied geology in undergrad 10 years ago. Yikes. And just kind of found this program on GitHub, and a year later, here I am.
Nice to meet you guys.
Yeah, so we're just gonna be talking about mostly the next PyGMT release, which is scheduled for 15 October next week-ish. Yeah, and discussing like some of the major sort of changes that so for this coming release and also like the future one, because there will be like a minor GMT release, version 6.3 for GMT and version 0.5 for PyGMT. So just sort of like discussing what could break and how to handle new stuff coming in. Yeah, but did you have like some questions or stuff you wanted to say, Richard or Klaus?
Yeah, I wanted to ask something which I don't know if you guys can help me. I'm trying to create a map, but I forgot. I need the graticals like within the frame of the map. You see, usually the graticals are outside the frame of the map. I don't know if you get my question.
Yeah, do you want to show the lines?
I've
or...
lost the code, so I'm trying to recreate the code, but I've forgotten that particular part of it. Like if you create a map and you have, let's say, the coordinate x lats and longs, right? Usually, if you plot the map, if you create a map, the lats and longs are sort of below the or outside
of the frame, right?
Yeah, but here's the case: I want them inside the frame.
Yes, I know. So you need to set the map frame type to inside.
Yeah, but I've forgotten how to do it. Anyway.
So there should be a, yeah, Megan, do you know
how? Yeah, so the easiest way to communicate this would be to like be able to share code with you, which is a little bit hard in the Slack Zoom window.
Share the code.
Yeah, do you have a account on the GMT forum, or have you ever been there?
Yeah, I do.
If you'd be willing to start a thread on the forum, I could post an example of how to do this. The other like nice thing about communicating or about this particular type of thing on the forum is that then other people can search for it later way easier than they might be able to if we answer it in a Zoom chat, because I'm not probably going to post that on the.
Okay. Okay. I'll try and put it in the forum.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
and we'll definitely be happy to help you out there.
Okay. Thanks.
Cool. And I see Klaus Peter has joined us. Hi.
Yes, hello.
Hello.
I'm located in Germany. I'm using GMT quite often, and I've seen PyGMT and a lot of examples in the forum. So I was just interested in what's going on currently and what the state of development is.
Great, welcome.
Okay.
We'll be happy to fill you in.
Hello.
Yeah. So we could just yeah, have a chat about stuff. So like, what sort of field are you in, I guess?
I'm geophysicist, and I'm also in high performance computing.
Okay.
So what I'm currently doing is mapping of archaeological and geophysical sites. So
Okay.
doing profiles, mapping of prehistoric sea levels and these things.
Sea levels. Okay.
Yes, sea levels.
Sorry, could you explain? Describe
sea
what
levels.
sea?
So oceanography, the sea level.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Yes.
sea level. Okay.
Sea level
so
modeling.
like paleo sea level.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Okay. So like what do you call those? Beach.
Yes.
I think it's 7. What do you call those? Like terraces.
Yes, terraces. It has to do with paleoclimates and all these things correlating prehistorical sites with sea levels and with shorelines.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Okay.
so that's quite interesting, and correlating that with geophysical data and geophysical insight. So I'm doing quite a lot of that with GMT. So I'm just interested to see what PyGMT is developing currently. So maybe some of the examples I'm just doing, maybe possible to move from GMT to PyGMT. Maybe something might be easier or more handy in PyGMT. So I'm just looking for anything you might discuss about that.
So it's hard to give an overview because there's like so many functions. But I think if you're doing like most of the basic map plotting stuff, you can definitely do it with PyGMT now. So like things like color bar, GRD image, GRD, what else? Like legends, those, and making like a color map, those things you can definitely do. The data processing ones, so I'm assuming you need something like GRD track.
Currently, I'm also doing a triangulation of large coastlines. And triangulation,
okay.
and I'm just creating overviews, such fly videos flying over surface. So I'm also doing that.
Okay, right. So like using the GMT movie.
Yes, a movie. Yes.
Function. Okay. So the movie will be a bit hard for PyGMT,
yes.
but it's definitely.
Yes, currently parallelizing that with 36 cores. So then it takes about 1 or 2 hours. But reading about 5 or 10 terabytes of data, creating some intermediate data, and then there will be some several minutes video with several hundred or several gigabytes of data. So seeing some high resolution data from the SRTM 15 data. Yes.
It'd be really fun to see some of those animations since they're once they're
Mhm.
ready.
Yes.
Once we're out, yeah.
So I'm just interested,
Okay.
anything you might present. I saw the top, the agenda today, so I'm just
Yeah,
interested in how it develops.
so there is a new SRTM update coming up. I think Megan probably knows a bit more on the timeline for that. And like, what are the major changes? I don't know.
Yeah, so I actually don't know exactly when that will be released. Paul had a conversation with Dave Sandwell about that. The best I know it's soon, and I'm not sure what soon means that
Okay.
in our world. And I think that it's just a standard update, including the latest data sources for it. I'm not sure if there's any more major revisions to how they produce the grids or anything like that, but I could certainly look into it. And I'll drop a link to the README for the latest version in the chat so people can look at that and interpret it for themselves.
Yeah, and I guess for like triangulate, we do have that feature is sort of in the works, but we are having a bit of discussion about how it should look like in a Python world. So I could drop the link in the. Could you put the link in the note, the chat, I guess, Megan?
Yep.
For the triangulate PR. So are you triangulating to get the nodes of the triangle or the grid?
Yes, I'm also getting the nodes of the triangles. You know that example which we had in the GMT manual also, or handbook. And I'm
Yes, there
inverting
is a
that,
triangulate.
and I'm not triangulating the ocean side, but the land side. So for me, it's important to see how far from the shoreline certain sites are. So I'm looking for the distance of sites inside a certain range from the shore, from the coastline. So I'm triangulating into the land from the shore. Yes. So I'm just looking how to see how many, for example, sites or locations are inside a certain range from the shoreline. Yes, so I'm doing these things. So it's.
Oh, is that more like a spatial distance?
Yes. Yes.
Measure rather than
yes.
triangulation.
If I colorize that, I can see that. Let's say 90% of all the sites are within 100 kilometers from the coastline. Yes.
Okay, so more like a buffer.
Yes.
Okay. That might be. Have you tried GMT select?
Yes, I'm doing that. Yes.
With that? Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, I feel that might be a bit more suitable than triangulation.
Yes, I'm doing both. I have to select the sites with GMT select and also triangulate in order to visualize which of the selected sites are within a certain range from coast distance. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So currently with GMT, there's no problem. I'm just looking around if there's different approaches.
So I'll be honest with you. You can't do that with PyGMT now. So those two functions, GMT select might make it into PyGMT, the next version, which is coming out next week. And the triangulate, what do you think, Megan? Is that gonna get finished?
It could if we wanted to, but I think it'll be ambitious. Otherwise, it would be we shoot for one release every quarter, right? Is that right? So that would be in 3 months. Would be the next one.
We could finish. We could try and finish it. It has been sitting there for almost a year.
Yeah, I'd be interested in a mini sprint at some point in the next week if you and Will wanted to try to wrap up some of these ones that have been sitting for a while. I think that we're as you can see, we're spread out all over the world, so that makes the review cycle sometimes a bit slow. since we have to wait for sometimes a 24-hour cycle for two people to look at something.
It's great. I wake up and I have things to do.
Yeah, it kind of works out well because like we finish something and then the next person in the next time zone looks at it and then
Yeah,
Yeah.
24-hour development cycle.
right. So let me try and summarize. So you want to use triangulate and GMT select. Yeah, we'll try our best to make it get those in maybe for the next release. So you can use it in PyGMT. My recommendation is like if you have something working in GMT already, and you're comfortable with it, it would actually be faster, I think, especially if you're working with a lot of data, to just use GMT directly compared to PyGMT. I'll be honest with you. But if you're sort of like PyGMT is sort of like if you're new to the whole thing, like you haven't used GMT before or you're from the Python sort of world, then PyGMT would be a good fit. I'm not saying like you can't use PyGMT. It's more if you're already familiar with GMT, it would be you get all of the features you want in GMT, whereas PyGMT is more like a young project, and we're doing our best to add every feature from GMT into PyGMT, but there's like I don't know, 200-300 functions. Yeah.
Yes, but it's not only for me. Even if I can do it with GMT, I just recommend it to some of my students or colleagues. And if they are new to GMT, so it might be easier for them to implement it with PyGMT as soon as that is available. So I'm just recommending that, even if I can do it in a different way, others might profit from that.
Yes, if you're recommending someone else, like then PyGMT would be a good place to start. But yeah, we'll be making a tutorial hopefully at some point to make it easier for everyone to get into it. Aren't you, Will?
Yeah, definitely not thought about that in a few months, but yes, I will.
Okay.
It was my project for the summer, and now it's October, so.
Yeah, well, it's summer in the Southern Hemisphere soon.
Exactly.
Okay, and we've got, what else have we got? How about we go back a bit and discuss about what we want to do for PyGMT 0.5. So what are like sort of the main things we have? Can we open up the milestone? PyGMT.
I mean, I think our pull requests that are adding function or adding like additional parameters should probably be our priority, just to make sure all the functions we do have are as fleshed out as possible.
Yep. So we'll move to finalize. Oh, the missing, adding missing aliases, missing long aliases, PRs.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are probably some of the easiest ones to wrap, just since it's a quick check to make sure that the documentation is correct and things like that. But I also think those are just for the functions we do have to make them as capable as possible before adding kind of half-finished other functions.
Okay, so finishing all the half-finished functions.
Yeah.
Okay, no, sounds good.
Megan, regarding your the ones that are trying to get away from grid info, so I'm not entirely sure. I'm sorry, I don't quite understand it, but like essentially, what is the reason that we're pushing for that?
So right now, GRD info returns a string without necessarily any metadata for what the data in the string represent, and so then you have to do like a regular format yourself to make that usable for
to like a dictionary or something like that.
Yeah, so and Liam had brought this up in a issue that it would be nice if we provided the most useful format ourselves rather than just a regular string expression. That would be a deprecation if we make that the default behavior. So therefore, we have been talking in a few issues, or it's come up in a few issues, that the test should be updated to not rely on GRD info if it might not be stable in a release or two.
Okay.
And so that
Yeah.
was the 2 pull requests I submitted yesterday. I think that we would probably want to give, I don't know if there's a way to, I don't think there's a way to honor both behaviors at one time, but we could implement the dictionary output as an option, similar to output type like you've done for some of the modules that have tabular output, and then have a warning that it'll become the default behavior in
2 releases or something.
2 releases. And then we
Mhm.
wouldn't have to worry about the test right now because the behavior would
That could be,
be
yeah.
the same.
Okay.
I guess
Okay.
I really rely on GRD info quite often.
Oh, all the time.
No,
Like I'm
it's
like,
a-
I
it's
need to
a-
make this test. What do I put for min and max?
Yeah. And
Okay.
so I would be really excited if at least the option to have more useful output were in version 5.0, 0.5.0. But I at the same time, it's next week and we have many of
Yeah.
the priority half finished.
Okay. Yeah. So this is sort of like, what should we prioritize? Like, I agree that GRD info, like outputting to a string now, isn't very helpful. Like, so do we agree that a dictionary output for GRD info is the most useful, or
I mean, I think that makes
is
the
that
most
like a
sense. So you can
better?
call in a specific function or a specific item. Because if it's like a list, it's kind of the same problem as a string. Whereas if it's a dictionary, it could be like, I want the, max X or something like that.
Okay. But GRD info has like quite a few output styles, I guess. Like sometimes you get like a long string, and then you have to figure out, oh, 0, the first position is, I don't know, X min, second position is X max. And how are we gonna handle that?
Yeah, I think we would have to have I guess an if block for if depending on which our arguments are set, because we want it to be the metadata to be included. So if it's the simple west, east, south, north, then we have it. I guess it is a decision to say whether those should each be their own dictionary items or whether we should just have region, but I think the output should be different depending on whether, say, like -c is set versus -I or whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense just to have a single value though, as opposed to just an entire region one. Just because even then you still kind of have to parse like a string or a list or something like that.
I could open a PR and we can see how much it looks like it's going to be a pain, and then decide whether it's something that's worth pursuing. I don't think it'd be that hard to get at least the first draft
of something.
Yeah. Famous last
Yeah.
I mean, I think probably it's unrealistic to think we'll get it done before next Friday, but I feel like we've been talking about this since I came on the project as like a potential. So we should probably just bite the proverbial bullet sooner rather than later, because there's just be more work on the back end if we keep pushing this off, since it seems like everyone wants to change the GRD info return.
To string, yeah. No,
by the way, you guys all pronounce, like, if you see like GRD, you call it GRD, not grid?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know if that's right.
I've always like been grid cut, grid info, and then you guys are like GRD. Oh my God.
I think either way is.
Okay. You can tell me I'm being weird, Wedge. It's all right.
No. It's because it doesn't have the I in the grid. Anyways,
Actually, Megan, just kind of one thing. Why in all the testing that you put, or the changes that you put in your PRs, are you using X-array testing as opposed to just like the max and min from the X-array?
Yeah, I didn't notice a big difference in the speed of the tests between the two, and the X-ray testing is, I think, more exact because in my understanding, it compares each of the cell values rather than just the min and max. So you could, I guess, theoretically have the min and max be equivalent, but the solution in between change. So that is why I made that decision, but I don't think that one way is.
I mean, I do think it is more exact. It's right. I was surprised. I thought it was all just a grid info, and I'm like, I don't really see the rationale there, but I agree with you there.
Mhm.
Yeah. In order to use that method, I really cut down a lot on the size of the grids that are, say, for example, cut from like half the world to like a few degrees. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think that's a good move as well. Like we don't want to, plot the whole world or process the whole world every time we run a test. Like it's more just to see that the function works, and like a small subset of the world. Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
3 pixels by 3 pixels is probably enough. Okay. But that's sort of tie into like why. So the comment I made, Megan, on whether to do this after PyGMT 0.5, because like since the new SRTM grids, so the new Earth relief grids are coming, whether we should just do the refactor and update the values of those grids at the same in one PR, or if we should do like 2 separate PRs.
Yeah.
So update the test to use X-ray testing, and then the subsequent update to fix the values of that grid.
I'm definitely fine with whichever you prefer there. One point, I should have given Weiji credit for that. One of the reasons I use X-ray testing is because Weiji suggested it on one of my pull requests. I generally think he has good ideas, so that's why.
No, not always.
Yeah. I mean, if my opinion, I think it's probably pretty easy to change the values once they change the Earth relief grids. So I don't see why we couldn't kind of keep going with the pull request we have. I mean, if the new data is released or are released before we refactor all of the tests, then we can change them in kind of a one shot. But I don't see why. I still think it's easier to change the values after the fact and just merge these like current pull requests.
Okay.
So
yeah.
there's
So
two that
it's
I
just
opened.
a lot of work. Yeah. No, because I've gone through this like Earth relief update probably like 2 or 3 times already.
Okay, all right.
In the past,
I'm speaking with absolutely no experience, so you're right.
Okay. Yeah. So it's but if just like we have an army of volunteers, like I'm not gonna say no. Okay. Straight. It seems more exact. And what else do
just
you
so I
have?
understand, the conclusion from this is that I should not open 7 more pull requests right now on refactoring the test to not use GRD info. Is that correct?
That's Wage's recommendation, and he knows more about this than I do, so I'm fine with that.
I think we should prioritize other things, since we only have like a week.
So I will not do that, but I will open a draft pull request for the output update, and we can leave that if it turns out to be too complex.
Yep.
So just so I understand it, as soon as GMT 6.3 comes out, is that also when we'll have the new Earth relief, or those? Because I know that's on the server, it's not GMT proper, or Or will they be about the same time?
I'm pretty sure it'll be different
Okay.
times. But unlike YG, I have not been through this process before, so
Okay.
I'm not
The last time for 6.2, there was a bit of a breaking change because they moved the default. So if you in GMT, I think 6.0, when you did Earth relief like 0, 1D for a 1 arc degree grid, it would give you a grid line registered grid. But in, was it 6.1 or 6.2, they moved the default to a pixel registered grid. So it sort of like shifts everything by half a pixel, like to put it in very basic terms. And that was a bit of a breaking change. So we had to like update, I don't know, it felt like 100 tests in PyGMT at that time. Yeah. I'm hoping like, I'm not sure how the new SRTM grids look like if they're like changing most of the world, or if it's just like some parts of the world they've updated, then depending on how.
Sorry.
Yeah.
It looks like they're incorporating, is it the Gebco database? Isn't that like the continuously updated database of like ocean floor mapping that's going on?
Yes.
Okay. So I imagine pretty much anything with oceanic data is probably going to be affected. If nothing else, like the Z values or.
Yeah, so like maybe the min and max would be affected, like if they find a deeper part of the ocean, or
even like the median and or something like that, or mean, just if
so the statistics of the grids would change, and that would change the test.
Maybe when we have to go through the changes, we should update them to use portions of the Earth that are on land, thinking that they're unlikely to change in future releases.
Not a bad idea.
But then you might get I don't know, a new volcano popping up somewhere.
It's true.
Okay, but yeah, since this sounds like
only regions on cratons, I think, is how we go.
Just like very stable, like reference points of the Earth that it will not change. Okay, but yeah, that would come after V0.5. What else do we have?
I have one question about the table-like outputs. So there were we had started this conversation before version 4, and we put off a couple pull requests like GRD to XYZ and a GRD volume, which hasn't been merged yet, in order to have all of those table-like outputs be updated at the same time. But I think currently we just have the NumPy pandas file option for GRD to XYZ. So will we try to update that for the other functions that offer tabular output before version 5 or 0.5, or will we just have it be a little bit different between the functions until version 0.6?
So I mean, I know we've had kind of previously talked about having a function that would do all that we could just import, and then we do the legwork outside of like GRD volume or something like that. But I think for now, it's the best option is still to standardize. It's just to have an output type, then NumPy, pandas, etc.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry, repeat that. No, just repeat your.
So just essentially standardize all of our functions to have like the similar output types of it.
Available.
We have an out file option, and then a output type, and then you can either say file for output type. You can either say file, NumPy, or pandas.
So we should do that for the coming next week's release.
I mean, for any functions that have a table-like output that we're planning to merge before then.
But you think so, not for existing functions like say like the block functions and what else is there?
I thought you had done that for the existing functions already.
No, they.
Going crazy.
I think they are still like pandas or
Pandas are bust. Yeah, I don't think I didn't.
or files. Yeah.
I think we updated the input options, but we have
Maybe that's
not
one thing.
updated the output options.
I don't think
Yeah.
it's
So
too big
this
of a
is
deal.
referring to the output.
I mean, I
My
think
preference would be to keep it just for GRD to XYZ, but I don't know how Will feels about that.
Yeah. I mean, I think if it's already in pandas, if someone has a pandas data frame, they can get it to a NumPy array pretty easily. So there's not really a need to prioritize it because anyone can import NumPy and just make an array themselves. So I don't think we need to go back and change anything right this moment. I think eventually the goal should be to standardize everything, but it doesn't need to be for the
Okay.
5.0 release or 0.5
Yeah.
release.
Okay, sounds good. I'll maybe move that consistent
To
table like
0.6.
output to
Yeah.
0.6 so that we don't have to worry about it.
Okay.
Do we have a release manager?
Oh yeah, we need to decide that maybe for this meeting.
I could volunteer on Monday. I'm moving and I don't want to commit to anything before I know that I have stable internet access. So I could let you know next week if I can handle it. But
I'll be around. I can do it.
Okay.
Well, that'd be great. Well, thank you for that.
No problem.
Right. I'm putting that down. Will be.
My wife might kill me, so if you never hear from me after Friday, that's fine.
Okay. Oh, we've automated like most of what we can automate, I guess. It's like Megan probably has to handle the GMT release as well the week after, or like be involved in that. So
yeah,
it probably makes sense. Will, I think.
Are you moving far away, Megan?
No, but out of New York City, so it's a process because
that's
there's
the
no
process.
parking or
Okay.
anything.
Okay. Okay. Let me see what else we need to decide on. The other two are the other two people still listening? Did you have any comments or questions?
Maybe from my side, Klaus-Peter here. When we're discussing the SRTM, so the data is getting quite high resolution. So I think it's not a problem with PyGMT. It's also some issue with GMT. We might need some more detailed, more high resolution vector data for the coastlines, for example. So currently I'm using the OSM data for the coastline because the DCW is not high resolution enough, but if I want to use, for example, national border lines, national details, I still have to refer to DCW or other data. So these, in most cases, they don't have a really nice fit with the OSM and the DCW. So we might need something which is more high resolution. Some, let's say, I don't know where to get the data like national borders in a high resolution. So I only have the coastlines. So if you're zooming into the SRTM, you might need
Data
more
sets,
vector data in high resolution, especially in that areas where the sea level is quite, difficult to model. As in, let's say, Netherlands and Northern Germany, we do have large regions for several hundred kilometers, which are about 1 or 2 meters below sea level, but they are a dry land. So if you're using the coastline and take some color palette for modeling that, you have to be wrong for at least 2 or 3 meters in order to show that as dry land. So that's quite difficult. So I need the coastline and the national borders quite high resolution. And DCW
and also up to date. Yeah,
yes,
DCW is quite an old data set.
Yes, and there's also some errors. For example, some islands. If you select a country like Netherlands or Germany, some of the islands are not associated with the correct country. So between the border, we do have islands there, and some are on Netherlands side, but they belong to Germany the other way around.
Okay.
So I fixed that manually because the data is quite old. So I think it's from the 80s and 90s. And something changed in between. So that's, I think we should think about in general how to get more high resolution data on national borders and coastlines. So OSM borderline with, let's say, 600 megabytes or gigabyte of data, that's not a problem to get that. But we would need the other detail, which are in the DCW in a more high resolution. So that's just a comment. It doesn't belong to PyGMT, but it's something general when we're discussing more high resolution data.
Yeah, so thanks for the feedback. For the GSHHG side of things, we actually do have funding to update the coastlines to the to a version 3 that agrees better with OSM, which is taken to be more true if you look at satellite data. So we're hoping to get that out, I think, within the next year of the proposal. For DCW, I don't think we have funded support, but there has actually been quite a bit of activity in that repository, led a lot by Federico Esteban, to update at least the attribution of islands to the proper countries. So if you see any issues that for islands and countries that you see, you could open an issue and even submit a pull request if you want to correct that, and we'd be appreciative. I think that I don't have a good idea of what we could use to update it to be higher resolution as we do for GSHHG, but that's a good point that would be nice to figure out. So in the chat, I dropped a link to the DCW repository, and in particular, one issue that Federico had opened regarding islands near Norway. So if you see any other issues, you could post comments in there, or open a new issue.
Thank you.
Cool. Right, that's a good question. Good comment. Update some data. Okay, and next up, what else?
For the AGU bullet point in the agenda, I cannot find an email about this, but I just looked on the session on the AGU website, and it seems we have a time attributed to ourselves. So I think that we got a talk, lightning talk. It's 3 minutes, so that's going to be pretty brief to figure out how to just, share all the information about PyGMT within that constraint.
What's the time and date?
Give me 1 second.
AGU 2021.
So it's a Friday afternoon, always fun at AGU, virtual only from 4:21 to 4:24 p.m. Eastern time.
Sorry, what? 4:21 p.m. to
4:24. So 3 minutes.
4:20. So precise. 4:24 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sorry, what was the date again?
The 17th of December on
17th December.
Friday on my side of the date line.
Okay, Friday. Yep. We're 17th December. Okay.
Yeah, maybe this is open on my other computer, so I can't drop it in the chat, but I'll put the link on the agenda later on today in the HackMD notes.
Yeah, so 3 minutes. So you're doing that, right, Megan?
Yeah, I can put together a presentation, and I will do it further in advance than I usually do, so that
Okay.
you all can have time to look at it and give any feedback you have. So I'll shoot to get that probably done by the beginning of December, which will be the
No, that would be-
before I have ever even started an AGU presentation.
No, 3 minutes is a good sort of, like, it's not, you still need to prepare, but it's not gonna, like, you don't have to put together like 20 slides for a Jupyter notebook or something like that. You
Yeah.
could if you want, but
Yeah, it might be fun, and maybe I could work with Will, and we could have a link to his new tutorial as part of the presentation or something like
Keep bringing it up.
that.
yeah.
But no pressure.
Okay.
But seriously, get
So
it
you'll be
done.
Yep. And that would be, and that's virtual only, right?
Yeah, I think they originally had it be hybrid, but it looks like it's moved to virtual only.
No, that's, yeah, makes it easy. And if
Are
I'm
you two
still in
attending
New
in
Zealand,
person, or I know you were on the
depending on
fence
my
about it, YJ.
visa.
Oh,
No, it's just depending on my visa. So, but it's still like a good time I can make it if I'm still in New Zealand on that day. I think I can attend because it will be like morning in New Zealand. Yeah, so I'll be there to support either way.
I would like to attend in person, but we're gonna wait and see how the statistics are going in December before I fly anywhere.
Yeah, it's hard to say. Okay. Prepare by early December. Cool. So there's about 7 more minutes just to, okay, going back to priorities. Is there stuff we definitely want for, oh yeah, the project rep project GMT project projection PR by Claudio DSF. It's been sitting there for a while. I was thinking like we might want to get that for V0.5. Does anyone want to take over? Or
yeah, I just want to pull it up to see kind of where it stands. Oh, just regular.
I could take over. I'd be happier taking over if we got kind of a affirmative from Claudio DSF first. It's okay to
okay, yeah.
push to the branch or whatnot.
Okay, so let's wait for Claudio to.
I would also
reply.
say, I mean, I don't know how much we want to prioritize this. I mean, according to his GitHub, he's been like pushing things and things like that. So while I don't want to just say like he has no say in this, like it's been a few months, and if we're really trying to get it for 0.5, we don't want it to drag out much longer.
Mm.
Or if we really want to get an affirmative here, we could just wait until 0.6.
Or we could just like ping him and say, oh, if you don't reply in, I don't know, 48 hours.
Give him an ultimatum.
Take it. No, let's be nice. Okay, since I pinged him already, let's just, yeah. Does anyone like, is this like something we want to push for, or we're happy to let it go into the next release, like 0.6?
I'll admit I don't really have a good gauge on like what is useful for a lot of geoscientists or not. So I'm not really a geoscientist. So if you guys think like a lot of people would benefit from having this in the near future, or if it can wait a few months, I don't know. I'd kind of defer to your opinions on this.
I think we could
Yeah,
have
I know-
other priorities. What's your opinion, Reggie?
It feels like reprojecting stuff is something almost fundamental or common, but that's just me. Like everyone has nicely reprojected data already, I guess. So it
Does
doesn't
any
matter.
do any of the other like the Goodall wrappers do this already, or is it something that would actually be
they
unique
do
to-
actually. So
So that's
we
kind of
could,
why I was thinking like if you could just use that.
yeah. And definitely in the Python world, there's like PyProj and I don't know. There's probably like 2 or 3 different ways, if not more, to do the same thing already. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So we'll just wait for Claudio then to reply. And to seafloor crustal age data set. So will your seafloor one, I think we'll definitely get that one in.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Okay.
don't.
I guess kind of on the topic of just like data sets, I know I opened an issue about it a few weeks ago. I guess so. Do we find it helpful to be importing, like adding functions to import like data for like testing and things like that? I know. I guess I thought there were like 10 data sets, and then I went to the GMT server page and I realized there
No,
are
this.
10 data sets. So, I mean, is that something we're hoping to eventually get more of them wrapped, or is it kind of only the ones for testing and that's pretty much it?
I think any that are used for testing, it would be useful to have at least argument in like a load sample data set function that can be
Okay.
used for it. An example is that for some of the tests I've been looking at recently, there's the table 511, which is useful if you want a preprocessed XYZ table to use for any sort of gridding routine. And that is something that I think in a few places we use, but there's no current function for it. So for that, it would have been, I think, helpful to have it included in the data sets module.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just as in a couple of the functions in the PRs I've recently submitted, I kind of I did just a fixture in the test and then just loaded the data set that way. So I figure that way, if we want to make it a function, it's a pretty easy just copy and paste and then an import statement. But that way we're not, because I think 2 pull requests that were dependent on other pull requests getting merged first. And I didn't want to kind of burden everyone with like an abundance of those.
Yes, I think for the seafloor one, it makes sense because it's one of those like global data sets that people could definitely use or reuse. But some of the other like tiny ones, like they could be just like a random data set. Like to be honest, like the Mars one, like
Yeah.
like it is sort of just like a random one. Like I'm hoping no one uses it for actual actual work because it like I don't know like how up to date that is, or if it's even like proper Mars data.
I'll just put some numbers in there as like Mars.txt.
Exactly, yeah. Like you never know like with some of those data sets. But definitely for like the Earth, so like the Earth age one, like I'm gonna do the Earth day and Earth night. So those are the NASA blue marble and black marble data sets.
Okay.
Hopefully next release, so V0.6.
Okay. So we're not going to try to get it in for 5.
No, I thought it would be easy, but it's gonna require a bit more work on. I'm doing some work on real X-ray now to read in like image data. So TIFFs. So there are like TIFFs which have like 3 bands sort of like merged into. It's like a funny structure. Like when you read it in GRD info or something, it reads as like 1 band, but it's actually like 3, and there's like a color table in it. But yeah, I'll sort that out like next time.
Okay.
This stuff is happening in the backend. Ooh, we had a question in the chat.
Oh, nice. Rickard just
Okay.
posted in the GMT forum.
I have, I'm not sure if I understood your comment, Weiji. So I agree that the only reason to have like PyGMT data sets load is if it's a stable server data set like Earth Age or Earth Relief. And then the cache ones, we had that open issue about having one function for it. Do you think that that is better or worse than not having
Individual.
any functions? So there's like having individual functions for each one. There's having one functions for any files that are in, or at least the text files in server in the cache directory of the server, or there's like not having any and just using which and pandas read CSV each time you need it.
So you mean like the Seaborn sort of model
Yeah, the Seaborn
Will suggested? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I actually quite like the Seaborn model, to be honest. Like, I think that's probably better than wrapping, I don't know, like a dozen individual load sample data set functions.
Okay.
So yeah, like I'm not against adding sample data sets. It's just like, I don't know, like some of those data sets I look at it and it's like, ooh, do we really want like users to use this? Or
I
So-
absolutely agree with you because even if they are accurate data sets, we could still remove them at any time, right? So we don't want to have people relying on them.
yeah, we don't want like, you know, some, yeah, just be like quite selective with what we put in, I guess. Like, and that is a bit of like a judgment call on us, but yeah, just be
Okay.
worried. Like, don't put like a random, I don't know, temp 23.nc file in there.
Sounds good.
Okay. It's over the hour already. So Richard will reply to your forum question in a few minutes. Oh, wait, let me see. Yeah, we'll try and reply to that in a few minutes.
Okay.
Was there anything else before we end this?
Nothing for me.
Nothing from my side.
Yep, I think we're good.
Okay, cool. So Megan will post this YouTube video hopefully in the next few days. I just realized, did we post the last one? The June video?
Yeah, pretty sure I did.
Okay, I'll just add that to the notes then. Cool. All right, thanks everyone for joining.
Yeah, great to see you all.
And,
Great to talk with you all.
Thank you. All the best. See you next time.
okay,
Bye, buddy.
see everyone.
Bye-bye.